This episode is sponsored by Petra Kolb. Hello and welcome back to Film Pro Productivity and Success, the podcast that helps film professionals and other creatives to live a more focused, effective and happy life. My name is Carter Ferguson and this is episode 84, Headspace. Howdy folks, I am back. Yes, I am back. And a great quote to kick things off, which kind of represents what I'll be talking about today, comes from former professional American football player John Riggins, who said that when things are going awry, it's time to put the blinders on and do your job. Just do your job. Don't worry about the other guy. Don't worry about the wins and losses. Just worry about what that very next play is. Today I'm doing a kind of update episode as it's been 6 months since the last show was released, but as I would literally bore myself to death, and I'm sure all of you, if it was simply to be a show about what I've been up to this last few months, I've instead thought that based on what I've been through recently, that I should talk more generally about headspace and how being in the wrong frame of mind can destroy your plans and hopes if you don't get a handle on it. Michael Arndt, the American screenwriter who wrote Little Miss Sunshine, I've probably pronounced his name wrong by the way, I always find people, quotes from people whose names are almost unpronounceable, but A-R-N-D-T, Michael Arndt is my attempt. But he's an American screenwriter. He wrote Little Miss Sunshine, Toy Story 3 and The Force Awakens, and he says that every problem offers an opportunity for a solution if you're in the right frame of mind to find it. And if we accept that as a truth, that means that if we are not in the right frame of mind, then we will never find solutions, or at best we will find a second-rate or an incomplete one. My year so far has not only failed to go according to plan, but in some ways it has been a complete nightmare. Coming off the back of the year that shall not be named, 2020, meant that I was not exactly rolling in cash, but I had hopes for a better year ahead and went all out to make it happen. This was helped by the 10 days I got on an amazing gig at the end of last year directing fights on a feature film starring James McAvoy. And I also got a couple of days on season 2 of Guilt, which is a really terrific show, a television show that's shot here in Scotland. And so I had actually, based on the fact that I had 7 months with absolutely zero work due to lockdown and COVID restrictions, getting 12 days or well-paid days on high-end productions was a win. But for those of you not in the know, I work as a full-time professional fight director. I choreograph fight scenes for film, television, theatre. That's how I pay my bills. I occasionally direct stuff, but that work doesn't come to me all too often. And to be frank, since I'd burned my fingers badly on a couple of directing jobs in 2019, I think it was, I'd been given it a bit of a wide berth. My fitness was good at the end of last year too, as although I'd been missing out on my swimming due to the lockdown restrictions, I'm now back at the swimming now, which is fantastic. It's been back about 5 weeks, but although that had gone at that point, I had taken up DDP yoga in its place, and that DDP yoga, which is Diamond Dallas Page, the former wrestler's yoga, I'll cover in another episode because it's really rather interesting, and I found it very useful to improve the physical side of life for me, my flexibility, etc. So anyway, by the start of this year, I had a best year yet strategy in place. I had a little bit of money in my pocket, and I was feeling physically fit, and I had high hopes for 2021. However, on December the 12th, I bought a second-hand car with most of the money that I'd made from the James McAvoy gig. My old car had been giving me real trouble, and I felt that in order to keep working reliably, I needed a slightly newer car with a few less miles on it. So I wasn't loaded, but I bought another car with pretty much all the money that I'd just earned, as I have to be able to reliably turn up if I'm offered a job, as if and when a job becomes available these days. You can't just get to some of these film jobs by public transport. If I'm called to a field in the middle of Fife, which is like 60 miles away from me, for 8 a.m. in the morning, I need a car to get there, and I need a car to carry my gear and my equipment. It's just the way it is. So After looking about, I bought a car from a car dealership so that it was covered by what is known as the Consumer Rights Act 2015, which meant that if I had any issues with the car within the first 30 days, I could have them remedied by the dealership, basically, or without quibble, ask for my money back. If I'd bought privately in the UK, I'd have had no rights. It's just going to buy as is, if it's bought privately. But I bought from a dealership, but I don't know if you can see where this is going because it didn't go well. The car was a disaster. The exhaust fell off after 6 days, and I couldn't get hold of the salesman at all or anybody from that business. After paying for the repair of it myself, because it was so near to Christmas, the car broke down altogether on Boxing Day after the engine overheated to the point where the engine cover that keeps the engine itself clean actually heated up so much that it melted into it. And I don't want to go into too much detail from then on in, but in effect, I asked for a refund, but the guy that ran the business had left the country, and so I had to work with Consumer Rights Scotland to resolve the issue, which took 2 months, during which the guy refused to play ball, and eventually I had to take the car dealership to court, which will only initially be heard now on the 15th of July. That's after this episode will even be released. So I've had 6 months of hell because of a bad purchase, basically, and it really brought me down, to be honest. Not only did it devastate my finances, which off the back of 2020 had already been decimated, but spending 6 months interacting with a sociopath was incredibly destructive to my mental and physical health too. All that time, and even now, I pay tax and insurance on that car, a car that I can neither drive or sell, and it's really not been fun. I'd imagine that I'm not the only one who has suffered from a series of unfortunate events like this at some point in their lives. I think that the reality is, if you work in the creative industries, that somewhere along the way, real life problems will intersect with our professional lives and shatter the vital work-life balance which we find ourselves having to steady. You see, although this shitstorm still hangs over me, here I am. I'm recording this episode, which is a bit of an achievement in itself, to be honest. I've finally got a few new plans in place as well, and I've taken action to counter all of this I'll just refer to it as bad luck that has rained down upon me. Your karma should be good, and everything else will follow. Your good karma will always win over your bad luck. Rohit Shetty, unquote. The problems that I'd been dealing with stemmed from perhaps 3 or 4 specific areas. Number 1 was bad luck. Number 2 was financial difficulty. Number 3 was dealing with a sociopath. And number 4 was the kind of resultant poor headspace. Luck, whether we like it or not, comes into play in much of what we do. Sometimes things go our way and sometimes they don't. I try not to get too focused on it, as it's not something that can be controlled, but it definitely comes into play. Sometimes a run of bad luck can really impact on our ability to motivate ourselves and our ability to overcome other obstacles. That's just the way things are. The reality is that all of us have bad luck and good luck, but the one who persists through bad luck, who keeps right on going, is the one who is there when the good luck comes and is ready to receive it. And I'm bastardizing someone else's quote there, but it's worth bearing in mind. All of us have bad luck and good luck, but the one who persists through the bad luck, who keeps right on going, is the one who is there when the good luck comes round again and is ready to receive it. The second issue that I faced was financial instability, which was much harder to overcome. Although I did have a few gigs this year and they were on high profile shows and films, I've not worked more than 2 days per month this year on any one project. So it's been really pretty atrocious. Realistically, I had, like 2 days in January, no days in February. I think I had 2 days in March, 1.5 days in April. I think I had 2 days in May. I've had 1 day so far in June as I record this. That is how much work I've had this year so far. It's not been going well. Luckily, though, I was able to get a hardship grant from the film and television charity here in the UK, and it really saved my bacon. I can't overstate this enough. But I didn't lose my house, and it meant I could eat. But applying for grants like that one are not in my makeup. It's not something I've ever done. I don't really have it in me. I've got a kind of squeamishness about asking for help. I just really had to get over it, because without that financial aid, I would have been right royally screwed. And I'm extremely thankful to that charity, and I will do my best in future to help raise money for that charity as well, because it does a great job. But besides that grant, I also wasted a hell of a lot of time attempting to sell, well, anything that wasn't nailed down, really, on eBay and Facebook groups, and that, I can tell you, is a time-consuming minefield. But all things said and done, and still with literally no work on the horizon as I record this, absolutely zero, I feel it's not been too bad. The greatest stressor, in fact, has been that throughout this time, I've had to pour more and more money into the bloody car I got scammed on. Taking someone to court is not cheap, and this guy did everything in his power to draw the process out and cost me money. I'm now into the car for getting on twice what I actually paid for it. So that brings me to dealing with a sociopath, and regular listeners will know that I recommend cutting people like this off and moving on. But when that person is tied to you financially, say through a business deal that's gone wrong like this, cutting them off is not an option. Perhaps even cutting off a family member might be another troublesome problem you've got. I mean, it would be possible for me to cut this guy off if it wasn't for the financial situation that I find myself in beyond that. Possibly, if I had enough money floating around, I could have been able to say, right, I'm just gonna ditch the money that I've put into this car and move on to something else. But I didn't have any spare money. I was really coming off a very, very bad year. And of course, the other reason I didn't want to write this money off was because this guy had made my life hell, and I ain't giving him a free pass for the misery that he's put me through. Sociopaths are people who demonstrate a pattern of disregard for others, especially in terms of their rights and their feelings. And it's estimated that 1 in every 25 people is a sociopath, so there is a lot of them around. And with such a high percentage of people considered to be sociopaths, it is very likely that you have encountered at least one at some point in your life as well. Typically, sociopaths are recognised by their deceitfulness, constant irresponsibility as indicated by repeated failure to honour financial obligations, and their lack of empathy and remorse as indicated by being indifferent to or rationalising having hurt, mistreated or stolen from someone else. I've been dealing with this guy for 6 months, and he hasn't even apologised once that I can remember anyway. That in itself has aggravated me more than I can say. Reason doesn't work with sociopaths, you see, nor does the presentation of facts and evidence. A sociopath, when faced with the truth, will simply ignore it. They will not respond at all, or they will talk about something else. And another thing they will do is blow up in anger when their strategies to throw you off fail. They will basically try any tactic at all, as they don't have any feelings or empathy towards others, and they are inherently, I believe, deceitful. This is going to court now, this thing, as the guy also refused third-party mediation. That was my one hope of resolving this sooner, and it failed as he simply refused to enter into it. So I really have been through hell with all of this. I came to really hate this person, and I don't use that word hate all too often about people, but this guy, I really came to hate him. So as a result of having to deal with a sociopath who has a hand in my finances that I can't get rid of, I've been unable to focus on my own plans for the last 6 months. I've also felt bereft of passion and creativity. There's not been an episode for 6 months, not only because I was taking a year off, but because I was losing the will to live, dealing with a nutcase. I think the worst thing that happened was that I allowed it to control me. I allowed it to consume me, in fact. And that's what brings me now to the point of this episode, Headspace. My headspace was a mess. I wasn't completely losing it, but many of my waking thoughts at times, and frankly many nights of lost sleep, came about as a result of the headspace which I found myself in. This bad luck, this financial nightmare, and the actions of this one sociopath were utterly destroying my frame of mind. I mean, I was still getting day-to-day things done. I'd been able to borrow a car eventually from my brother, for example, after losing one job, as I had no transport whatsoever and I had to turn it down. And I did some work towards achieving more positive things, but always underlying every day and every night, I had an anger burning under me that I honestly found difficult to control. I was speaking on the phone recently to Stevie, Big Stevie from Scare Scotland. Good guy, great guy, in fact. And a great organisation, Scare Scotland. Check it out. They're on Twitter. They're all over the place. They've got websites, etc. I don't have them at hand, but very, very interesting organisation. They supply people, basically humans, who have trained in scare, things like zombie movements, etc. I'm not selling it very well. Stevie can sell it better, but occasionally they turn up in fight sequences and things like that, and they're always brilliant guys. But anyway, I was talking to Stevie on the phone, and I really got very, very angry because he told me that even if I win the case, which I will still have to send bailiffs out to get the money at my own expense, which is something I didn't realise. And after wading through all this crap and preparing evidence, which amounts to some 40 pages for this court case, it really wasn't what I wanted to hear. A neighbour also moaned to me about the car that's been taking space for 6 months now outside my house, and although I controlled my temper in that instance, I was absolutely furious as he knew my situation and that the car didn't work. This anger was there all the time, bubbling under the surface, and it had me for a full 5 months of this year at least, completely in its control. One day I saw a quote on Twitter or something like that, which said something along the lines of, anytime you allow someone to have a negative influence over the way you think, feel, or behave, you give them power over you. And although I couldn't immediately, when I saw that, get my head to fully process it at that time, that is the thing, that one quote, which eventually allowed me to break free. I said it earlier, I hated this guy. That hate came from anger. Anger at my bad luck with cars, frustration with a lack of work and regular income, which could have helped me to extricate myself from the situation, and most of all, anger at this bastard who'd put me through all of this. Dealing with this prick was like continuously banging your head off a brick wall. It got so bad that I cracked a tooth gritting my teeth on one occasion. I'm not making this shit up. I eventually realised what it was doing to me though, and I finally regained control. I don't mean I got control of that situation. It's ongoing. The problems are still there, but I got control of my life back. And as I was researching this episode, I came across a short article on anger management. I think it's called angermanagementonline.com, I think it was. And it talks just specifically about this problem. And it points out that giving away your power leads to helplessness. You become the victim of your circumstances. You become the passenger in your life rather than the driver. And I'm not the sort of guy that is happy to be a passenger. I'm not the sort of guy who is content to be a slave to someone else's manipulation. Most of all, I'm not a victim. I hate victim mentality, and I'm going to talk about it in a later episode. It's something I wanted to tackle for a while, but it's a difficult subject because people are going to get riled up. Someone's going to get upset about it when I release it. But anyway, I really feel that victim mentality is becoming a bit of an epidemic right now, and I think it needs to be brought under control. Whether my episode about it will help in any way or not, or make it worse, I don't know, but I'm going to do one. I think that's, hold on, episode 88, so just a few down the road. So some of you may be amused that one of the last episodes I put out actually covered this sort of topic. But believe you me, it was harder than hell to overcome. Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength," unquote. I knew this well. I'd done an episode on it. I read regularly from the Stoic philosophers. But as the months went on this year and I found my time and my energy getting sucked further and further into this absolute nightmare that I found myself in, I found it more and more difficult to look coldly upon it. Today, though, is a different matter. I am back in control at last, and I'm far more stoic about this whole affair, as I simply couldn't let it control my life any further. And another quote, which was in the last episode, helped me to stabilise a bit. It was from Epictetus, who said, "The chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can clearly say to myself which are externals not under my control and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil? Not to uncontrollable externals, but within myself to the choices that are my own. I've chosen to move forward before the matter of the car is settled. It's not neat and tidy like I like things to be, but I've packed it away in a file in my head marked pending. I've submitted my evidence to the court, and I've stopped all communications with the sociopath. To me, he is a known entity now. He will do everything in his power to cause me bother, so I will move forward expecting that to happen." At the start of the year, I wrote my best year yet plan, and part of that was to take massive imperfect action. It was a plan, as I say, that has fallen by the wayside this past few months. But last month, with that paradigm in mind that I'd written to take massive imperfect action, I committed to something pretty big. Despite having really little or no income to speak of right now, I have taken on a 1-year lease on a new office space. I've cleared my office out of the spare room at home and moved it to a building not too far from Glasgow Airport. I'm recording this from the very office right now. I did this as my girlfriend and her daughter will be moving in with me in August. It was one of those major tasks I had set up in the best year yet plan, but which I hadn't really gotten into. But now it has been achieved. When they move in August, that will be a second part of my plan that has been achieved. I can't say that I'm back on schedule to achieve my goals, I'm not, but I am moving in the right direction, and I can honestly say that I am back in control. And the office has been fantastic for productivity, incidentally, as an aside. I'm going off piece now, off my notes. In all honesty, right, you might think that I'm crazy when I've got so little coming in and so little resources to take on an office space when I could have worked from home, I could have worked from a coffee shop. But the amount of work that I have achieved in the 1 month, it's not even been a month since I've been in here officially. They actually allowed me to start moving things in early. So technically I took it over on the 1st of this month of June, and I'm recording this on the 23rd of June. But in that time, I've organised everything. I've also written 7 episodes, which this is the first one that I'm recording. And I am on top of stuff that I haven't been on top of. Never mind for the last 6 months. I haven't been on top of them for the last year and a half. So this commitment, this office, this massive imperfect action that I have taken, I have no regrets about at all. Today I find myself still fighting minor fires every day, but I'm taking action every day too. I've been doing a lot of reading, which I find relaxing, and I've been tackling all of the smaller tasks that have been hanging over me for the last few months. This gradual wearing away at the ongoing problems eventually leads you to a kind of sense of freedom. And that in turn allows me to be more creative once again and allows me time to achieve my larger goals, those goals that I set out in my best year yet plan. Here's some tips about dealing with Headspace, which I hope you'll find useful. I've probably mentioned this one before, but if my desk is a mess, or my house, or my car, or even my PC's desktop, it's always a sign that my mind is a mess too. Spending a little bit of time sorting through these things and organising them, possibly making a few calls that you've been putting off, or even just filing them, will in turn mean that your headspace may become a little bit less cluttered too. I honestly believe that if you don't sort out your desk, your head will never be uncluttered. At the moment, my desk is a little bit cluttered because I'm recording, and that means I've got to bring a lot more things out. But generally speaking, since I moved to this office, my desk is, if not clear, it is certainly tidy. Next up, all regular listeners will know that I am a fan of whiteboards, and I've recommended before doing a brain dump onto them. It's something you should do too. It's getting things out of your head and onto a piece of paper or a whiteboard, you see, that's going to allow your brain a little bit more breathing space to sort itself out. When you see it written down as well, things that are in your head, things that you've been mulling over, you can start to delete the unimportant stuff, file away the stuff that isn't imminent for later, and tackle a daily to-do list of what really needs to be done right now. Then you just do one thing at a time to start clearing it, and that way your mind will start to feel a little bit more free. I honestly feel if your mind is filled with stuff you're thinking about, creativity becomes more and more difficult. One of my big aims this year is to get more writing done. I've written some episodes of the show, but I haven't done any writing of my creative projects at all. Starting really after these episodes are recording, I'm straight back into writing again, which is a good thing. It's not entirely true. I did write a short film, which is possibly going to happen in Norway, which is very cool. But generally speaking, I've not been doing much of that creative stuff, and it really was because my brain was all over the place. And the next thing that I recommend is that you take breaks. I recommend reading fiction too during your breaks rather than looking at your phone, as that'll allow your head to take a bit of a holiday to someone else's world where it can enjoy itself and relax for a few minutes. As I say, I've been reading really an awful lot recently. I was reading the Sharp books. Those of you on Twitter will know this. They were fantastic. This kind of action adventure and period action adventure stuff was fantastic, and it just allowed me to escape whatever I was dealing with at the time, and I found it relaxing, far better than looking at a phone or looking at a textbook or whatever, trying to learn something. Really just letting your mind go is fantastic. And there is an episode coming up which is specifically about the Pomodoro technique, and the Pomodoro technique, which is going to be episode 86, so 2 away from here, that has breaks set into it, and it really, really works. I've actually used the technique to write the entire 7-part series, and that took me less than it normally would. That probably took me about 5 solid days to do the 7 episodes, to prepare the 7 episodes. However, in the past, that could easily have taken me 4 weeks. So the next thing I would advise you to do is to get some sleep. Next up is to eat well. And finally, I want you to take a walk, smell a flower, watch a sunrise. Life is too short to miss out on what's right in front of you, so grab it while you can. All of these things will help you to form a better headspace. I'm going to sum up now, and I'm going to start with another quote, but of course I found someone whose second name is virtually unpronounceable again. Austin Kleon, I think, said this, Kleon, Kleon, that's my best guess. But he said, "The biggest task in the morning is to try to keep my headspace from being invaded by the outside world." And that's certainly a problem that I've got myself. But I hope that this episode has perhaps helped you to consider some similar issue that you have in your own life and illuminated a potential way for you to get past it. I don't really like talking about myself, but I quite often find that the shit that I've been going through is not a million miles away from similar problems which listeners find themselves in. And this sort of stuff that I've been talking about in productivity terms is sometimes referred to as the success mindset. I'll maybe cover that in a future episode. But the success mindset would urge you to remember that there's a relationship between your state of mind and success, and that your thoughts create your reality. Your emotions are your guidance system, it says, and that their management is a step towards success, managing those emotions. It also says that you must acquire the skills to motivate yourself, and that your goals are always achievable as long as you can maintain the right frame of mind. This is a precursor to a micro season of 6 further episodes, which starts next week with episode 85, 10 Indicators of Self-Sabotage, which is a subject that comes up very, very often. And in fact, even as I was prepping this season, it was getting discussed on Twitter. So that's one you probably want to look out for. Your call to action this week is to consider this statement. Anytime you allow someone to have a negative influence over the way you think, feel, or behave, you give them power over you. Think about that and use the thought to get control of your emotions and to take back control. So that's all for today, but I'd like to thank today's sponsor and all the sponsors for this season, in fact. But today's sponsor is long-time supporter and good friend Petra Kolb. I'll finish today with some wise words from Mark Twain, though, who said, "Anger is an acid that can do more harm to the vessel in which it is stored than to anything on which it is poured." Now take control of your own emotions. Take control of your own destiny. Keep on shooting, and join me, my friends, next time on Film Pro Productivity and Success. The music that you can hear right now is Adventures by Ihimitsu. You can view the show notes for this episode on the official website, filmproproductivity.com. You can follow my personal accounts on Twitter and Instagram at fight_director, or follow the show on Twitter at FilmProProdPod or on Facebook at FilmProProductivity. Please continue to support the show, folks, by subscribing, spreading the word, that's the important one. Please tell people about the show and leaving an awesome review.